What was that?
Perfect. You want to be that guy?
Wow. Happy Wednesday, December 28th, 2022. We're almost in 23, believe it or not. The team is caught up doing all kinds of crazy stuff, so I'm holding down the fort, and I hope you're ready to have a good morning with me. We got some fun stories today. They're just fun. I want us to take a look at the big picture. We're going to zoom out. We're going to zoom out a whole bunch. And good morning to everybody who joined us this morning. Let me share the screen. So check this out. The global. Yeah. So this is the global market cap for all of crypto. So we, zoom out and look at like 2021. You can see that we've been here before. It's been a while, but like the last time we were here, this is before that big explosion upwards in 2021. So like this looks a lot like 2017, but you zoom out and include 2017 and you're like, oh, even our bear markets are still up. Got it. That's the big picture here, right? We used to all the way back here in 2017. This is like before crypto hit 20K, like right in here. And you can see the market cap peaked out. We're currently higher than that point. So I don't want anyone getting freaked out like, oh no, there's no money in crypto. We might be really going down. If anything, we're testing these levels because you can see like there's this huge bull throughout 18, 19, and 20 into 21. And then we had this huge spike. Well, that was unprecedented in people who are looking at the total market cap. So right now, us being at 36 trillion, that ain't bad for 24-hour volume. And what is that? 814 trillion for full market cap. So, and I don't want anyone losing sight of that because they're zooming into this 1 year review. Like that looks pretty bad. Like you zoom out and you get the context. You're like, oh, we're good. Like if anything, this is a buying opportunity, and I think that the next few weeks here are going to be our sweet buying opportunities. I'm looking for one more leg down. That's what I'm looking for. But I wanted to get into the WTF news because like how we had this like huge cold spell. So like check this. ADHD is a gift and a curse, believe it or not. Here we go. So in Texas, apparently, the cold weather that swept through Texas led to a car wash being frozen solid and apparently damaged. This Instagram video was posted and shows that the HEB car wash in Lakeway, just outside of Austin, with its interior filled with huge icicles. The car's brush roller is seen completely encased in ice. So make sure I don't play the audio. I got striked by YouTube for audio stuff, man. Jingle Bell Rock, apparently. Yeah, look at this, dude. That sucks so bad. Just completely buried in icicles. It's nuts. So apparently somebody doesn't know how to turn water off when the calendar is in winter and the temperature says it's going to be below freezing, but yeah, look at that. That is nuts. Yeah. So yeah, I know our story today about FTX is more a matter of we don't want to talk about FTX every single day because people care about more than just FTX and crypto. So we uh we come back to it if it's the more relevant thing to talk about if more things come out. But um our next story um is still about this whole bear market, but I want everyone to have this context. So the BTC bear market is worse than 2014, but it's still better than 2018. So even though the recent bear market isn't encouraging for Bitcoin, which has fallen 66% since January, it's still better than the bear market of 2018. So it may not feel like we're at all-time highs because we're not, but as far as bear market is concerned, it's been worse. What's up, Crypto Scout? Yeah, recent data indicated the current bear market has fared better than 2018, but worse than 2014 in terms of ROI. The price of Bitcoin, which started the year at $50,000, has declined more than 66% down to 16K at press time. So 2018's this small line here. This is 2022, and this is 2014. So 2018 apparently as far as ROI concerns, beginning of the year, if you had just gotten in until the current moment, you still would have made money. Is the funny thing? Yeah, yeah, it's wild. You can go into a den and shoot up all the bears at present. That's true. So many bears. It was the Russia-Ukraine war that triggered the crypto bear market in 2022. Was it? Was it? Further in the aftermath of the Terra Luna collapse, it became worse for the entire market, including Bitcoin. Market experiences new lows following the crash of FTX on November 7th, with Bitcoin trading between 15 and 17K in a new sideways range. And that's the story. We're just moving sideways, and that's okay. At some point, we're going to catch a leg down. The news cycle has played itself out, and we're going to have a really smart buying opportunity, and we're going to see crypto slowly move up because all the weak hands were shaken out, right? That's what we're expecting, to see. So yeah, in the wake of the FTX contagion, several companies filed for bankruptcy, including BlockFi and Genesis. These are really big stories because those are companies that people wouldn't have expected to flop, but they did flop. And the question is, are there other heads that are going to roll before people have had their fair share of, bear market rotten fish, apparently? The Fed's rising interest rates to fight inflation didn't help the situation for Bitcoin either. And that's context. I don't think there's anything nefarious here other than the Fed has no business manipulating the dollar, in my opinion. But modest rally on December 27th lifted Bitcoin just below 17K range before it fell by 1.5%. So these are the bear cycles in 2014 and 2015, right? And this is right when I started getting serious about crypto. Is right in that bear market. And it wasn't based on price action. It was based on I just believed in the fundamentals and thought it was cool that I could have a whole bunch of GPUs and make money with it. It's like, hold up, I can have a whole bunch of computer hardware that's like mad scientist, and I can make money doing that. Let's go. So, even if I break even, I have all these dope video cards, and that's how I looked into it, right? Yeah, yeah. I'll slap Sam with a life sentence, give him plastic surgery, change his name, and in a couple of years, everyone will forget the whole thing. I don't think you're wrong. I think people get plastered with information constantly, and your brain, like, if you look at like our ancestors, right, like 100, 200,000 years ago, the amount of information people were hit with is like a fraction of what people are hit with today. So, like at some point, our biology is just not equipped to handle, the rapid news cycles, right? Oh man. So yeah, this is cool. The bear market of 2018 though, after recovering $1,000 in January 2017, Bitcoin continued to rally as high as 20,000 by the end of the year. However, Bitcoin's peak of 20,000 was short-lived, as it subsequently lost more than 81% of its value within a year to $3,200. So I remember exactly when that happened, and I had sold a bunch of CPUs I was mining Monero on, and they were worth a lot of money. And I was like, man, I could scoop up a bunch of Bitcoin. You know what this guy did? I played myself. I was like, I'm gonna buy some guitars, and that's what I did. I was like, the price will stay low. I just totally played myself. So I keep those guitars just to remind myself not to forget when we're in a bear market and the price dips like that. You scoop. You know, like I could have bought those guitars like within a year profit wise and still had a huge bag of Bitcoin. So that's a big data lord fail. So that when I tell you, like, when we're in a bear market, look for these opportunities to scoop. Don't be spending your money on, you know, stuff that doesn't matter in the long run. I'm saying this from experience. Like, it hurts. Like, oh man. So that's kind of the bear market story. We've been in worse bear markets is the takeaway, right? Like, things have been worse before, and I don't want anyone losing heart if you haven't been in the space uh, this long, right? If you haven't been in the space very long, this stuff has happened, and it will continue to happen. And it's a pattern, it's a cycle that moves around. There are some trends we're seeing in Web3 that I want everyone to keep their eye on. And since um, I took over the show today, I'm going to get into some stuff that I'm thinking about often. So I want to get everyone on the same page with me. So if you see things, you can point them my way, and you can know what to look out for as far as platforms growing. So in 2023 and beyond, we're going to see a lot of growth probably in Web3. So we already saw Web2 companies, meaning websites with interactive website, or companies with interactive websites, but they don't have like decentralized server file hosting, right? There's no blockchain integration in the platform. And so in 2022, I saw many Web2 companies accept crypto payments. We saw a lot of that, and add blockchain innovations like NFTs to their services. So I think that that's like the first step up. This is a trend that will continue to grow as more people become aware of blockchain technology. And this has been happening more and more just over the holidays we just had. People are like, hey, your aunt and uncles are asking you so what's up with this whole FTX thing? I heard it on CNBC and Fox News, bud. Like that's typically where people who aren't in crypto hear like firsthand information about crypto. They hear a little bit of murmur, like Bitcoin this, it's going to zero, it's a scam, some company did something terrible, and they ask their family members about this, and then they get some real information about it. Let's see, into crypto. How long do you think BTC? How low do you think BTC will go? Personally, my gut is saying somewhere around 10.5. I think it'll be a quick wick. I could be a little biased, but I was stupid surprised to see 3,200 back in that previous dip I mentioned. So I think with really really big bags, people can intentionally dip things a little lower, just to basically knock out people's stop losses. Like you could slam the price down, knock a bunch of people's orders out of the books, and then scoop it low. So that's my opinion. But yeah, this is a an astute observation, though, that this will happen more and more. It's already happened. It's going to keep happening. That we have companies, the majority of companies today are Web2. We're going to see a ton of them just start to get NFT integrations, start to get crypto payments integrated in as an option, not as a primary. But that's just the first step. As you know, in Web3, cryptocurrency is how you pay for stuff, but we have a lot of other uses for blockchain, like whether you're allowed to sign in, like NFTs. There's a thing called gating NFTs, and a gating NFT, if you have it in your wallet, that's your sign in. You can sign into the website with that. So that way, if let's say you have a website that you're saying like, hey, this is paid content, I don't want just anyone coming in here. Instead of relying on like a centralized server that handles the authentication, you're setting up an NFT that allows that access. So I think that's going to become a pretty common pattern that people are just going to take for granted in years to come. The key to the next crypto summer will be mass adoption of Web3 elements by traditional Web2 companies. I completely agree with that. As this transition accelerates, more attention will be spent on designing interfaces and experiences that are more intuitive for the average user. So this has kind of been the reality we've seen. There's a lot of like Web3 tools that either look like crap or they're confusing to use. And it's that type of end user experience that is making it so that only people who are good at this stuff and who do this, Web3 crypto as a hobby, those are the people, the enthusiasts, the early adopters, which is why you're on this YouTube channel right now, for example. We love this stuff. We think it's fascinating. And even if it's not a polished experience, we still want to dabble with it so we can be people who had first experiences with the tools, because it's fascinating to us just even what's possible. But if I'm going to get grandma to start using this, it's unlikely grandma's going to use this unless it's really easy to use. And I think if you look at some other companies like Facebook, for example, you see a lot of people in our grandparents' age using Facebook to keep up with their friends and their family, and to play some simple games. Facebook has literally laid out what works as far as end user experience goes. So crypto tools have to start focusing on like, okay, we've proven that like we can get a payment to work. We've proven that we can get a certificate of authenticity with an NFT for certain art assets or certain things we've sold. And that kind of acts as your like blockchain receipt that something happened. How do we integrate that into a business and just make it transparent and people can take it for granted, right? So I think that's going to happen more and more. So if anybody's looking for a career to get into, if you have an artistic eye, I really, really recommend you at least play around with like user interface design, UX and UI. If you can get good at designing really polished websites that feel good and cool looking buttons and dynamic web pages, as you're scrolling, things are kind of moving around. If you have an eye for that kind of thing, there's going to be a ton of jobs for people who are really good at that. So even if you're not someone who's super technical and you want to be doing back end tech development, because that requires a certain type of mind to be super good at that, you might find your niche in user interface design. So look that up. It's literally just website design. But the thing is, most people in crypto have shit the bed with user interface. It's been bad. And so I think this is one of the most astute things said this entire year right here. Adoption starts with three main components: simplicity, security, and applicability. Amen. Seriously. Simplicity, security, and applicability. So we've seen a lot of platforms like FTX tote this, and they had simplicity down, they had applicability down, but their security was crap and people got wrecked, right? You have other things like PancakeSwap, for example, where it has security and applicability, but it doesn't have simplicity. And so you only had crypto heads get involved in it. You're not having grandma use it. So looking at what things have worked and haven't worked. Like this really is the trifecta. Like you can make a lot of money if you memorize this and just keep an eye out and really use this as the rubric for grading projects. Like, is the project simple to use? Is the project secure? And is the project actually solving a problem? Does it fill a need? Because if it doesn't fill a need, it like, let me give an example. The first NFT that got really, really big was CryptoKitties on Ethereum. And a ton of people were like, that doesn't solve anything. This does not solve a problem, because it was a game. And people didn't quite understand, like, how is it a game if I buy a cat? I buy a cat and that's the game. Like, this is a weird game. But it was simple, and it was secure. The applicability didn't really solve a problem. It wasn't really engaging. And I heard a quote from I forget. It was a really famous game developer, but he said, a good video game is a series of interesting decisions. And so a series of interesting decisions is what makes a game interesting. And so I think that's where CryptoKitties lacked. There was no interesting decision to be made. You just kind of had a cat. It was just kind of a collectible, right? So perhaps the series of interesting decisions could come from trading the NFTs and trying to find ones with rare traits or something. But I want everyone to keep this in mind. If you're looking for things that are going to be profitable in the future, long term, not just a quick pump and dump, make sure that they are simple, they're secure, and they really solve a problem. And if it's for entertainment, make sure it has a series of interesting decisions. Or if you're watching a movie, for example, it has a series of twists you didn't expect, and it provides like mental stimulation, right? Like you saw a joke you didn't expect to happen and it was really funny, and so you laughed and you enjoyed that surprise. It stimulated your mind in that way. Or you got really attached to the characters and something tragic happened to them, and you got the feels because it stimulated you, right? So I think these are the core principles that make a project successful in and outside of crypto and Web3. So with simplicity, security, and applicability, we see a trend in this direction, as well as some best practices inherited from Web2 services. That's absolutely true. The ability to combine what people used to do with something new is what will define future blockchain trends. So this is, it seems obvious and simple, but people aren't doing it. And let me explain why. I've personally been on the deep end of the blockchain engineering, and I can tell you, you get caught in the weeds. You really do. There's so much to know, and there's so much that isn't documented very well that you're just trying to figure out what's up and what's down. And a lot of times you forget to back up and look at, like, okay, what is the purpose of what I'm doing, right? Am I doing something just to prove that on a technical level I can move from point A to point B, or am I really looking at designing a product and an experience for other people to use? Because if you're looking at designing a product and experience for other people to use, you're going to make very different decisions than, can I just get it to work, right? You're not going to settle for less, and you're going to look more at proof of concept from a product perspective, and not just, an IT nerd doing tickets, right? Shout outs to my IT nerds doing tickets, though. So yeah, so we expect to see significant adoption of decentralized finance, or DeFi, by institutions due to permissioned pools and decentralized compliance protocols such as Purify. Yeah, this is going to happen, and this just makes sense. If you're in crypto and you're like, hey, I got a bag and I want to make some money off of it, it only makes sense that you are probably going to do some form of lending, but it has to be smart contract based lending, which is what DeFi gets into. You're like, look, if I can make 30% and I'm not trading, I'm just kind of putting my money up for, for lend. That's a pretty good return, 30% on the crypto value, not the USD value. And if the crypto goes up, which it probably will, that'll be worth even more. So a lot of people are thinking in those directions, and especially companies, because this says by institutions, right? So I this whole DCTV team, we're building a lot of other things outside of DCTV. We're in individually and collectively working on building a bunch of things in the blockchain space that we think could be better. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, a lot of these institutions we're talking to about funding, they are talking about, hey, how can I get the biggest return of investment? Because the way they think about this stuff is, I can put my money in the S&P 500, and I'll make, I mean, what is it, like 5%, 6%, something like that. So if you can beat that number, I'm listening. That's typically the spiel they give us. So DeFi, if we're like, hey, what if I told you we can make you 30% on the crypto asset, and likely the crypto asset will see 3 to 6x within that time frame. And so they're like, hold up, so I get 30%, plus that's going to go up by, possibly 600%. That sounds good. Let's do that. And so knowing that that's what's going to happen more and more, I recommend that everyone who's interested in getting into this from a career or even as a hobby really does start to learn some smart contracts, and really does start to learn how they can help program really, really good DeFi projects. Because if you can develop a good DeFi project and you're actually solving a problem, these institutions, these dudes with big bags of money who are kind of concerned that the USD is not going to be the place to keep their money, but they still want to play the USD game, is the funny part. They're probably going to be interested in what you're doing. And even then, if you're just someone who is interested in growing your bag, you're a casual trader, you trade here or there, DeFi might be a good place for you to make some money. Now, this is not financial advice, but I want you to keep your eye looking out for these types of opportunities, because this whole compliance protocol thing, this whole permissioned pools thing, allows you to just trust that code is law. And I think that's really where the value is coming from. People do believe code is law and it will execute properly. And the blockchain that you pick is really, really important. If you're picking a blockchain that isn't secure in the first place, code is law can only help you so much if the consensus mechanism can't keep it secure, right? So it's like you could have a really, really awesome server, but if you keep your password on a sticky note on your screen, it's not a very secure server, is it? It's that whole idea. So integrations of permission DeFi protocols within the backend of traditional banking systems to provide their customers with more attractive and trustless alternative to current financial services. This is huge. I can't tell you how big this is going to be here. We've already seen a lot of talk, not in decentralized systems, but just in blockchain in general. Blockchain as a database technology. We've seen Ripple really focus on how do they make a blockchain application that serves traditional banking infrastructure, right? And a lot of traditional banking infrastructure were attracted to Ripple because it is centralized, because XRP, the coin, was made by the same team who owns the company Ripple, and Ripple, the company, owns 80% of all of the XRP in circulation. So knowing that that XRP, there's not an infinite amount of XRP, it's actually deflationary, meaning there's a fixed amount. I think it's something like 80 trillion. I forget. I read the whole white paper, but there's like a fixed amount of XRP. It's a really high number. And then underneath that, 80% of those coins that were just minted are owned by Ripple, the company. And then every single time you do a transaction, a little tiny bit, oh, thank you, 80 billion, every time you do a transaction, a tiny little bit of that XRP gets burned and is no longer in circulation. So I'm really concerned at this 100 billion XRP. You're probably right. It's in there. If someone could look it up, that'd be dope. Otherwise, know that it's a big number. But the big idea here is that we have this company owning 80% of the entire supply of this coin, and every time people spend it, they're using it. It burns a little bit of the introduction of, or it burns a little bit of the supply that's there. Meaning this group of people holding 80%, they're going to have a lot more than 80% as adoption grows. But banks, for whatever reason, they like this idea because my guess is it's similar to the Fed, where they can kind of puppeteer it, right? They can say, well, we have 80% and we'll just add a little bit more to supply, or we'll scoop it up and we'll reduce the supply. And I think the idea is that as far as like circulating supply goes, they can puppeteer, the numbers, which is kind of what the Fed does, where they're like, hey, there's more dollars in supply. They didn't actually print anything. All they did was change some numbers in a computer system, and that's just what they go off of, right? So yeah, shout outs to Burtown Music Group. 100 billion XRP was minted, and 80 billion is owned by Ripple Nipple, the company. So I say all of that because this is what this piece is talking about, right? Where we have protocols within the back end of traditional banking systems. So nerd, I want to be clear with language. Your statement is appreciated, but this comment here of XRP is not a crypto. So just to get some definitions clear, crypto means a system that uses cryptography. That's all it means. And crypto means hidden. Ography means writing, so it's hidden writing. So there's hidden meaning in the text. And so if we're using cryptography in any part of a system, it is crypto. Now, just because there's crypto does not mean it's either distributed or decentralized. Okay. A distributed system means that you have servers all over the place, but there could still be one central authority. For example, Amazon Web Services is a distributed system. They have servers in, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, in Utah and Colorado. So like they're multi-geo, they're distributed, but Amazon Web Services, the company, owns all these servers, and so they can turn servers off if they want to, or they can deny customers access if they want to. And I've mentioned this example before, but we did see this happen with Parler. Parler was competing with Twitter. Twitter was doing a bunch of heavy political censoring. And right when tons of people were like, all right, Twitter, I've had enough of your crap, people left Twitter to try to get onto Parler, and Amazon Web Services took Parler's servers down. That's the type of thing that only happens in distributed systems and cannot happen in a decentralized system. If the system is a decentralized system, that means that there's a decentralization of power, right? So there's no CEO, there's no head of it. There's a decentralization of power, meaning everyone has to either stake the currency or contribute proof of work mining to authenticate transactions on that blockchain. And once they've authenticated those transactions on the blockchain according to the rules, the consensus mechanism, bakes that into the block, and it exists permanently in the history of the blockchain. So that will affect the outcome of every chain before it, because the value of one block becomes the input of the algorithm for the next block. So even if one little validation was changed, the numbers wouldn't work. And so just because something's crypto does not mean it's decentralized or distributed. You could have a blockchain that is on an on-premises server, and it's within your own company's private cloud. It's not a public cloud thing. and you're using it just as a way to have high confidence that no database administrator can just easily go in and change it, but even still, they could still change it more easily than a fully decentralized system. So I hope that's useful. But crypto is the technology, decentralization is the application. And so there's a lot of technologies that we're using in Web3, in crypto, in Bitcoin and its ecosystem that are not exclusive to Bitcoin and its ecosystem. So just because something's a crypto does not mean that it's to be valued, right? Like Shiba Inu coin, for example. Like, yeah, it has cryptography, but it's a piece of crap. Like it's a joke coin that even its white paper uses language that proves it's a joke. They're just playing off of the community hype around Doge. Yeah. So continuing though, and super appreciate the interaction here, guys. The gaming industry will drive mass adoption, and we see this through most technologies. There's two applications that will usually drive adoption. Technology is first applied to usually the black market and pornography, and after it's applied there, it's usually applied to gaming. And I think the reason for that is the black market and pornography, they're looking for how they can use any tool whatsoever just to get a financial edge. Um, Within the black market specifically, people don't care if something's cheap or not. They care if they can use it and if it covers their tracks properly. And so that's why we saw a ton of like cryptocurrencies being used on the black market and in the dark webs first and foremost. But after people were kind of done buying drugs on the internet using crypto, what started to happen was people found real use cases outside of just that cryptographic use. And we did see like there used to be a coin called like sex coin, for example, where I guess they were using it as like a means for people to buy tokens and be able to use them on their platform, and they weren't technically using US dollars. I think that was the idea. We also saw things like THC coin for a while, where they were specifically trying to make a proof of work that was made for the marijuana industry to get around this whole limitation of being cashless, because a lot of banks wouldn't touch those businesses even though they were legal in the state they were in. And so I say all of this just so you understand, like, technology is applied there first. And even in like VR, for example, like pornography was one of the first use cases for like VR headsets. They went into that whole direction, because even if the experience isn't good, the gimmick of the pornography piece will make people see it favorably. But once that's happened, gaming usually takes it on. And gaming, you already have a high amount of dopamine in those previous experiences I talked about. But in gaming, people also have a lot of dopamine because they're playing something fun. They're doing something leisure, right? And so because they're already feeling good, they're likely to kind of forgive some things that suck a little bit. And I think that that's why gaming is the low-hanging fruit. We're going to see a lot of people start to use crypto because it's just in their game. They're like, yeah, I got an achievement unlocked and it gave me an NFT for that. And like, cool. Most people are going to get NFTs not because they give a crap about NFTs, but because it's just integrated into the system. And once it's integrated in the system, they're like, oh, this is a rare NFT. I could actually, almost like Steam. Like Steam does this right now, where if you get a achievement unlocked, you'll get a trading card. You can sell those trading cards on Steam's internal market, and you can buy games on Steam with those tokens that you get inside of Steam. Now, Steam's not applying it at a cryptography level. Like they aren't using a cryptocurrency for that tokenization, but they should. but we're going to see that type of interaction, I think, become the way most people are getting into crypto, just inconsequentially. We're going to see a big wave of high quality games emerging in the market, which will basically bring on more mass adoption. I agree. That will come into full effect somewhere in 2023, maybe spilling into 2024, because game development takes a while. 6 months is kind of like on the low average of how long it takes from a concept to, hey, we have a game out for you, depending on how complex the game is. So we should expect a wave of potentially hundreds of millions of users entering the space for that reason. So, question for you guys: has anyone in our community played a Web3 game yet? Have you played a game with crypto integrations? And if so, what was the game and how did you feel about it? Was it kind of clunky and stupid? Was it actually fun and just lacked longevity? Are you still playing it? Let us know. But gaming will grow probably on Polygon. I can't agree more. I'm so impressed with Polygon Matic. Polygon was made to overcome the limitations of ETH. I don't know if everyone's played around with Ethereum, but for a while, especially while NFTs were really popping off, ETH was expensive and it was slow. And it was because the network just couldn't handle the amount of transactions per second being asked of that network. And so one of the ETH developers, one of the early ETH developers started Polygon Matic. Used to be the Matic network. They rebranded it to Polygon. But Polygon's fast. It's super fast. And it allows you to interact with Ethereum's blockchain. You can send things to and from it using like wrapped Ethereum, basically. And so the fact that Polygon's solving a problem and it's a good experience and it's already integrated into big platforms like OpenSea, which is like a big NFT platform, Polygon is really cornering the market to not just be a short-term player, but I think a lot of people are going to start using them for real applications like games. And if they're using them for real applications like games, I think what we'll see is Polygon will cement itself as a legitimate long-term blockchain. So if that happens, I'm really bullish on Polygon long-term. And I don't know if anyone else has seen any scammy confusion nonsense about Polygon, but I've been doing a lot of homework on it for a while now, and it's just impressed me. So much investment's been made into gaming companies over the past year or two. The gamers will first come from Asia and then eventually from a more hesitant North American audience. And that's what we've seen too. Like this, that's what happened with League of Legends. League of Legends can be looked at as a really good example for how games can get mass adoption and hold player bases. So if you are looking at building a game, I recommend you look at what Riot did with League of Legends, because you'll probably make some astute business decisions if you do that. Like they have a lot of skins that are available for all their characters. It's free to play, but if you want to unlock characters that are always available to you, you have to either play the game a whole lot to be able to get in-game tokens to unlock them, or you can just pay money to unlock them. And once you have unlocked them, there's a ton of skins for those characters that people might want to get. One, because it makes the game interesting, and two, because it's kind of how they flex on their friends or their opponents that they have, some rare skin or some cute or funny skin. So I'm sure those principles apply widely for Web3, cryptocurrency, integrated games. Gamers are already familiar with many online transactions, including digital currencies, which prepared them very well to participate in blockchain-based games, since the market's already so large. With over 2.5 billion video game players, the potential for growth in blockchain gaming is promising. Both gaming and metaverse applications are following a rapid growth curve, and consequentially, we expect that cryptocurrency user numbers will continue to rise in 2023, despite the ongoing crypto winter. And gaming will likely be one of the next areas that innovate things forward. And I've already said the main reasons I think gaming is probably the incubator, for this adoption, but I think we should really be on the lookout for blockchain integrated games that are actually fun. Because once you find one, there's a lot of lessons we can learn from that specific platform, and I think we should really pay attention. So, yeah, I hope this has been useful, because for me, this is kind of part of my playbook for how I'm building things and what I'm looking at. Getting into our headline story here, the whole FTX situation continues to get interesting, and I don't think we're done yet. I think the ride will continue. So, yeah, Caroline, that's so funny. Caroline Ellison tells court she knowingly misled lenders. So she told a federal court in New York that she knowingly misled lenders about how much the firm had been borrowing. So she knew the firm was borrowing way more, and she just gave them a load of crap. And she said that former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried had agreed to hide the arrangement by creating false financial statements. So this whole cute thing he's playing of maybe he's just covering his tracks, because he agreed to do something shady, it looks like, and he got caught doing it, and now he's trying to play dumb. So it's embarrassing to watch, man. Yeah, Indo here. Security is just so important, man. As soon as a project gets hacked or their roadmap doesn't deliver, like in Crypto Zoo with Logan Paul, it's like, yeah, we have to have better ways of just validating people are going to do what they say they're going to do, and that's the takeaway, right? Like, say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say, right? Man, that copy's good. So Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, told a federal court in New York that she knowingly misled lenders about how much the firm had been borrowing from the FTX, or from the collapsed FTX exchange, and knew that her actions were wrong. Oh, she knew it was wrong. From 2019 and 2022, I was aware that Alameda was providing access to a borrowing facility on FTX, the cryptocurrency exchange ran by SBF. Ellison said, according to the transcript cited by Bloomberg, in practical terms, this arrangement permitted Alameda access to an unlimited line of credit, without being required to post collateral. That is so sketch. Without having a negative balance and without being subject to margin calls on FTX's liquidation protocols. Dude, you hear how whack that is? Dude, check this. This arrangement allowed Alameda access to as much money as they want without putting any money up front and without having any downside. That's nuts. That is okay. Ellison said she and former FTX CEO SBF had agreed to hide the arrangement by creating false financial statements, and that she knew that Alameda accounts with negative balances signified the firm was borrowing funds from FTX. So they just created a straw man to hide behind, is what they're saying. Ellison and FTX co-founder and former CTO Gary Wang pled guilty to multiple charges earlier this week related to the collapse of Alameda and FTX. Bankman-Fried extradited to the U.S. from Bahamas and appeared at federal court in New York on Thursday, where a judge said he'd be released on a $250 million bond package while he awaits trial. Yeah, that's crap too. Because this 250 million that he paid on bond, like, that's stolen money. Like, it's not like that hurt him at all to do. That was just funny money, right? He paid that with Monopoly money he got out of his little sister's game, Monopoly Junior. Wang, at his plea hearing, said he had been directed to make changes in code. He knew he'd give Alameda special privileges. Bloomberg reported. I knew what I was doing was wrong, Wang said. That's such typical Wang, said in a transcript cited by Bloomberg. So they admitted that they basically straight up completely bullshitted their entire community, knew it was wrong, and then made some fake little paper to say, no, I didn't. I actually am in the clear. So when they're doing audits, they find, financial statements that say everything's in the clear, and then when he does get caught, he pays for this with stolen funds. You see, see the kind of crap this is. Yeah, this is so true. What a wanker, total wanker, absolute wanker. Yeah, he's on a bond that if he don't get to court, he has to pay the 250 million. Yeah, 250 million of money on the back end from whoever he hooked up, and they gone. They're already gone. So this is the kind of crap that is just indicative of centralized systems where people don't have transparency, they aren't accountable, and it's always everyone is equal, but some are more equal. This is Animal Farm all over again. And so we have to make sure that we are personally not keeping our money on exchanges. We want to make sure if you do put money on an exchange to do trading, put an amount that you can afford to lose on the exchange, move it, slip it off, get it back onto your self custody. Because if you're not doing that, you're honestly just putting huge amounts of money in the dude like FTX and saying, please don't hurt me, but he doesn't care about you. So this whole centralized system thing, we should just be really, really cautious of. And if you haven't already bought a ledger, this is what a ledger looks like, right? It's just a little USB device. It has, like 2 buttons on the top. And if you press the left button, it moves the menu left. You press the right button, it moves the menu right. And if you press both, it selects whatever's on this little tiny screen here. And you plug that in through USB. I spilled coffee. Why? It's cool. I'll just hang out with coffee on my lap, gangster. Yeah. So that sucks so bad. Why did I do that? Dang it. So the ledgers, though, they really are the right way to store your crypto. It has a cryptographic hardware security machine inside. So you enter a PIN code that's specific to that device, and it can interface with your private keys. And so you're only approving specific signed transactions. It's the most secure way for you to interact with crypto applications and have it not be a big clunky thing where you have to type in these long hash codes from like a paper Bitcoin wallet. So if you're doing a high number of transactions and you want to make sure they're secure, you want to get one of those ledgers or a Trezor. And very last thing I wanted to go over today. So El Salvador, they're really leading cryptocurrency education. They're doing some fascinating things as a small country. They're buying 1 Bitcoin every single day, no matter how much it costs, and they are making that part of their treasury. And even though they're down 60% since they started buying them, we know we're in a bear market, and their event horizon is much longer than that. They're just dollar cost averaging. And once we're out of a bear market, they're going to be in a really nice position. It's going to be bizarre how this tiny country of El Salvador is going to be a huge major financial player as Bitcoin starts to appreciate into a bull market. So, but El Salvador is educating students on cryptocurrency. This is so cool. They are specifically teaching students on how they can receive Bitcoin through the Lightning Network, on what a node is and why they matter, on what double spending is and how we protect against it, and on Bitcoin halving. So these kids are really getting awesome education that's going to set them up for success. And no one expected a small country like El Salvador to pull something like this, but I'm fascinated to see where they are 100 years from now. They're not going to be the same El Salvador that we thought of 5 years ago. They're really going to be in an impressive position, in my opinion. And they're just leading the way. So a Bitcoin educational project in El Salvador aims to teach 250,000 students just in 2023. How cool is that? We have to do stuff like this in the US. This is too important that kids learn how this stuff works and they don't get taken for a ride by these centralized bad actors. El Salvador currently holds 2,500 Bitcoins, according to a website that tracks the country's portfolio. So how rad is that these kids are in school learning not just about Bitcoin, but like about fundamentals in Bitcoin? It's gonna be mind blowing. In the speaking of FTX, he will be blowing something or has been. I mean, look at the leaky FTX org. Yeah, the FTX is a hot mess, and you see that contrasted with what's happening in Bitcoin. True, we hold our private keys Bitcoin. It's a totally different environment where people are not scamming anybody. They're doing the right thing. They're educating people. They're in it for the long run, not for short-term gains. It's a totally different discipline. And that's why I bring this story up to highlight the distinctions between get rich quick, centralized crypto trash, and long-term hodl Bitcoin security people. Like it's a totally different understanding. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be involved in coins outside of Bitcoin, because I personally think there's a ton of use cases for things in blockchain outside of cryptocurrency alone. The whole NFT applications for other types of software are really smart and promising. So, but interesting. So I know everybody loves birthdays, and Brad usually does this part for us, but he's not here today. And so today I'm going to keep it short, but we have Stanley, beautiful Stanley, who invented the majority of these comic book heroes we're so fond of. It's his birthday. He was born in 1922. So happy birthday to Stan Lee. Rest in power. John Legend is 43 years old today. We have Denzel Washington, who is 67 years old. And we have Seth Meyers, who's 48. And I don't have any funny concerning people's birthdays today. So I'll leave that for Brad later on. Thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate everyone attending, even though it's slower. Keep calm and hodl on.